Imagine a ticking clock, but it isn't counting down to like a bomb detonating or a company going bankrupt.
Right.
It's counting down to the exact moment a man must willingly stop his own heart just to keep the entire universe from tearing apart.
Is a massive premise.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are bypassing that lazy, kind of overused culture clash label that always gets slapped onto Wole Soyinka's masterpiece, Death and the King's Horseman.
Yeah, that label really does it a disservice.
Totally. Instead, we're looking at the terrifying metaphysical stakes of this real historical event from 1946. We want to explore what actually happens when two fundamentally incompatible views of reality just, collide head on.
Exactly.
Because when you look closely at the sources we've gathered, so we've got the script itself, Soyinka's incredibly passionate prefacing note, and these really detailed cosmological diagrams provided by the editor.
Those diagrams are super helpful, by the way.
Oh, absolutely essential. But looking at all this, you realize this is a story about a literal life or death deadline, a horrifying desecration of the sacred, and arguably one of the most profound debates on the nature of sacrifice in modern literature. Okay, let's unpack this, because where do we even begin with something this heavy?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Soyinka himself actually issues a direct warning right in his opening pages about that culture clash label you mentioned.
Right, he hates that term.
He finds it deeply prejudicial. He flat out calls it a perverse mentality to reduce this complex tragedy to a simple binary of Western methods versus African traditions.
Like it's just a misunderstanding over customs or something?
Exactly. To truly grasp the gravity of what unfolds in this text, you have to temporarily abandon your Western assumptions about life and death. You have to step completely into the Yoruba mind.
Right.
Because the true confrontation Soyinka is staging here, it isn't physical, and it isn't even primarily political, despite the whole colonial setting. It is entirely metaphysical.
Metaphysical. Okay, so to understand those metaphysical stakes, we really have to map out the rules of the Yoruba universe as Soyinka presents them.
Yeah, we have to lay the groundwork.
Right. So looking at the editor's introduction and those diagrams of Yoruba cosmology we have, the cosmos is divided into two halves of one spherical whole.
Mm-hmm.
You have I, which is the physical world of the living so, the marketplace, the earth, the flesh.
The tangible stuff.
Exactly. And then you have Orun, the other world. That's the realm of spirits, the gods, the Orisa, and the ancestors.
And the barrier between them is really important here.
Yeah. The barrier between these two halves is death, but it's not a wall. It's a permeable barrier. It's a passage.
Right, it's a transition point.
Mm-hmm.
And humanity within that physical world of I is strictly categorized based on their relationship to that passage.
Okay.
You have those who know, the initiates, the rulers, the elders, the priests, the people who understand the delicate balance of the cosmos.
And then the opposites.
Yeah, those who do not know, the outsiders, the uninitiated.
Which brings us to our main character.
Exactly, Illicin Oba. He is the king's horseman, and he is the absolute pinnacle of those who know.
So what is his role exactly?
Well, the king of his people has died, and native custom and cosmic law really demand that Illicin commit ritual suicide tonight.
Tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
To accompany his master through that metaphysical passage to Orin, the king literally cannot make the journey alone.
I always try to visualize abstract concepts like this, and thinking about this cosmological setup, it feels incredibly similar to a high-stakes cosmic relay race.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like the king has died, right? He has started the race into the afterlife, but he's navigating an abyss.
He's in the dark.
Exactly. He absolutely needs his horseman, a lesson, to grab the baton and complete the transition to safely guide him to the ancestors.
Because if he doesn't.
Right. If a lesson drops the baton or simply refuses to run, the entire spiritual ecosystem of the living, the dead, and the unborn is thrown into complete and utter chaos. The universe effectively crashes.
That visual perfectly captures the absolute necessity of the act. It's a cosmic duty. It is not a personal choice.
Right.
But what's fascinating here is Soyinka's characterization of Illicin. He isn't some dour, depressed martyr who's just eager to escape the mortal coil.
Not at all.
He is a man overflowing with infectious vitality. He dances through the market. He jokes. He just radiates power. He fiercely loves the physical world.
The text makes a huge point of that.
It does. He loves the texture of cloth, the taste of food, the companionship of women. I mean, on the very day he is supposed to transition to the afterlife, he catches sight of a beautiful young girl in the market.
This part was wild to me.
Right. He sees her, and essentially commands that she be given to him as a new bride before he dies.
I have to admit, reading that scene, I initially really struggled to understand his mindset.
It's definitely jarring for modern readers.
Yeah, he literally consummates a new marriage hours before he's supposed to willingly end his own life. He tells the market women he wants to travel light, but simultaneously insists on leaving his seed in the earth.
It sounds super contradictory.
Incredibly contradictory. But when you look at it through the lens of the cosmos, his profound love for the physical world of I is exactly what makes his transition to Orin such a monumental, heavy burden.
Yes.
He isn't giving up a life he hates. He is tearing himself away from a physical world he absolutely adores.
And his vitality is the very fuel required for the journey. The gods don't want a hollow shell. They require a spirit brimming with life.
That makes sense.
But that deep attachment to I makes the psychological severance agonizingly complex. And because the stakes of Ellison's transition are universal, any interference whatsoever is an existential threat to the world.
Which is where the disaster starts.
Exactly. Enter the local British colonial administration, District Officer Simon Pilkings and his wife Jane. They represent those who do not know in the most absolute destructive sense.
We see that ignorance weaponized almost immediately in the play.
Oh, from their very first scene.
While Ellison is in the market, preparing his soul for this incredibly heavy cosmic journey, Pilkings and Jane are in their bungalow getting ready for a fancy dress ball.
To entertain a visiting British prince, no less.
Right. And their costumes are confiscated Igungun masks.
Yeah, this is so hard to read.
It's awful. These aren't just spooky outfits. These are sacred garments deeply connected to the Yoruba ancestors. Pilkings hasn't just appropriated a culture. He has essentially stolen live cosmological ammunition.
And modified it.
Yeah, modified it with press buttons so he can sip drinks at a party. It's just wild.
The visual contrast is staggering. And Soyinka uses a Musa, a Muslim native police sergeant, to highlight the sheer terror of what Pilkings is doing.
Amusa's reaction is so telling.
It is. He comes to deliver a report, sees Pilkings in this sacred death mask, and completely freezes. He cannot physically bring himself to speak to his commanding officer.
He's just paralyzed.
Literally. He stammers out, "How can man talk against death, the person in uniform of death?" Amusa understands, even as a Muslim, the profound metaphysical weight of the Igungun.
And Pilkings naturally just rolls his eyes. He dismisses the entire reaction as mumbo-jumbo.
Of course he does.
He's just annoyed his servants' delicate sensibilities are ruining the mood. But then Pilkings reads Amusa's report and discovers that Ellison's ritual suicide is scheduled for that night.
And he completely misinterprets it.
Completely. He instantly slaps the label of murder on the event and orders the police to arrest Ellison. Now, looking at Pilkings' behavior in the text, it's really hard to read this as a genuine moral crusade to save a life.
Oh, not at all.
He operates entirely like a panicked middle manager. His primary concern seems to be avoiding a messy public relations incident while the royal boss is in town.
Pilkings confirms that bureaucratic mindset himself. He explicitly mutters that if it weren't for his duty to the crown, he'd gladly let the locals throw themselves off a cliff.
So much for moral superiority.
Right. He is terrified of having to offer the visiting prince a plausible explanation for a native riot. He sees only a futile, barbaric act of suicide that threatens his career trajectory.
He's just totally clueless about the stakes.
He is completely blind to the cosmological disaster he is precipitating by arresting Elevens. And this intervention isn't happening in a vacuum.
Right, the editor's intro gets into this.
Yeah, it provides vital historical context. Colonialism had already been systematically chipping away at the Yoruba metaphysical ecosystem. The British had previously banned the Ifa oracle.
Which is their profound system of wisdom and prophecy.
Exactly. And they had forcibly altered burial practices, mandating communal graveyards over traditional rites.
So Pilkings stepping in to stop Ellison isn't just a single moment of cultural clumsiness. It is the culmination of a systemic dismantling of a worldview.
It's a structural disruption.
The juxtaposition Soyinka builds is almost grotesque. You have Pilkings doing the tango in a sacred death mask, playing a record on a gramophone, while less than a mile away, a man is trying to balance the survival of the universe on his shoulders.
It's brilliant stagecraft, but deeply unsettling.
Very, because Pilkings doesn't just stop a ritual. His physical disruption forces a profound intellectual collision. And we see that collision perfectly mapped out when Jane Pilkings runs into Ellison's eldest son, Alund, outside the ball.
The confrontation between Jane and Olund is really the philosophical anchor of the
For
text.
sure. And we should explain who Lund is.
Right. Olund had been smuggled out of the country by Pilkings years earlier to attend medical school in England.
Against his father's wishes.
Totally against them. It deeply fractured Olund's relationship with his father. Yet, Olund has returned tonight. He heard the king died, and he knows exactly what cosmological duty his father must fulfill. He has crossed an ocean simply to bury his father.
I genuinely struggled with Oland's logic the first time I read this exchange.
How so?
Well, he is a Western-educated doctor. He has sworn an oath to preserve human life. Yet he stands there in a calm, tailored suit defending his father's impending suicide.
And Jane cannot handle it.
No, Jane is horrified. She calls the ritual futile and barbaric, which, let's be honest, is likely the instinctive reaction many modern readers share. So what does this all mean? How do you, as a modern person, grapple with Olin's logic? How does a doctor reconcile those two realities?
He reconciles it by forcing Jane to look in a mirror. The play is set during World War II, remember? And Olund uses the global conflict to dismantle Jane's assumptions.
This part is so sharp.
It is. He brings up a recent news story about a British ship captain who deliberately blew himself up with his ship.
Right, a vessel packed with dangerous explosives.
Exactly. He did it to save the coastal harbor population from the blast.
And Jane's reaction to that story is incredibly telling. She immediately categorizes the captain's suicide as different. She calls it inspiring, an affirmative commentary on life.
And that is exactly where Olund springs the philosophical trap. He exposes the glaring hypocrisy of the colonial mindset.
Yeah.
He demands to know why mass wartime sacrifice in the West, or the suicide of a single ship captain for the tactical preservation of a harbor, is considered noble and strategic, while his father's peaceful, focused, cosmic sacrifice for the spiritual preservation of an entire people is dismissed as barbaric.
The double standard is wild.
Olunde worked in the hospitals in England during the Blitz.
Yeah.
He saw the hordes of mangled soldiers. He witnessed the catastrophic, industrialized slaughter that British generals casually labeled strategic victories.
The scale of the hypocrisy is staggering when framed that way. Millions dead for lines on a map is civilization, but one man dying to maintain the fabric of the universe is savagery.
Precisely.
Olin points out that the white races have brilliantly mastered the art of survival, building better weapons, better medicines, but they entirely lack the cultural humility to allow other peoples to survive in their own way.
Soyinka's use of Olund here is brilliant. He doesn't use the Western-educated character to validate Western ideals.
Right, he flips it.
Instead, he uses Olund's British medical training and his exposure to the war to articulate the profound logic and dignity of the Yoruba tradition against colonial hubris.
Yeah.
Olund explicitly tells Jane that he found absolutely nothing in England that gave the British the moral authority to pass judgment on other peoples. He has rehearsed his father's death in his mind for a month. He's perfectly prepared for the transition.
Which makes the devastating climax of the story almost unbearable to read. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the intellectual debate ends, and we are forced to confront the physical reality of Pilking's intervention.
The rubber hits the road.
Yeah. We find Alyson locked in a cell in handcuffs. Pilkings has successfully arrested the king's horseman. Alyson looks at the district officer and tells him that by stopping the ritual, the white man has shattered the peace of the world forever.
But the tragedy goes deeper than just colonial interference. Alyson doesn't let himself off the hook.
No, he doesn't.
He makes a harrowing confession to his new bride, who is sitting outside the cell. He admits the physical world, her warmth, the earth itself, the sheer pull of eye held him back.
That vitality we talked about earlier.
Yes. He confesses to a catastrophic weakness of will. As the colonial police were moving in to grab him, he committed what he calls an unspeakable blasphemy of thought.
Which was?
For one fleeting fraction of a second, he wondered if the gods had sent the white stranger to spare his life.
Wow. How does a fleeting thought break a cosmological chain, though?
Because the transition to Orion requires absolute unified will. The barrier of death cannot be crossed by a divided soul.
I see.
By allowing a single doubt to enter his mind, by secretly hoping to survive, Alyson anchored his spirit to the physical world. His will faltered just long enough for Pilkings to slap the handcuffs on him.
So Pilkings was just the tool.
Right. The colonial police were the physical instrument of his arrest, but Alyson's attachment to life was the metaphysical cause of his failure.
The baton was dropped.
It was dropped.
And the consequences are immediate and brutal. Iologia, the mother of the market and the fierce leader of the women, she arrives at the cell.
And she is terrifying here.
Oh, she is completely uncompromising. She is accompanied by a group of women carrying a long, cylindrical object wrapped tightly in cloth. If Alayson was expecting sympathy, he receives absolute wrath.
She verbally destroys him.
She tells him the community expected him to be the heroic hunter returning in triumph, but instead, he has revealed himself to be the hunter's dog who grovels for leftovers.
Such a brutal insult.
It is. This raises an important question, though, about her reaction. Why is she so intensely unforgiving?
This raises an important question indeed, because Iologia represents the uncompromising absolute laws of nature. She shows zero pity for Alayson, and she aggressively rebuffs Pilkos when he tries to intervene.
Right.
She forces Alayson to confront his failure through the metaphor of the plantain tree. In the natural world, the parent shoot of the plantain must wither and die to give its sap and vital energy to the younger shoot.
It's the cycle of life.
It is the unbreakable cycle of regeneration. But by failing to die, by clinging to his own life, Alayson reversed the cycle of nature itself.
The moment she pulls back the cloth on that cylindrical object is just breathtaking in its horror.
It is a gut punch.
The women reveal the body of Olunde, Alayson's son, the Western-educated doctor who defended the dignity of the tradition to Jane.
Yeah.
Because Alayson hesitated, because he allowed his honor to shatter, Olunde realized the cosmic chain was broken. To stop the universe from collapsing, Olunde stepped into the void.
He committed suicide to take his father's place.
He grabbed the baton his father dropped and forced the ritual to completion.
The cosmic order was technically restored, but at a terrible, unnatural cost. The parent shoot survived, and the sap-laden young shoot was violently cut down.
It's just devastating.
The sheer stillness of Olunde's body paralyzes the room. And in that silence, Alayson finally understands the magnitude of his blasphemy. In a swift, desperate motion, he flings the chain of his own handcuffs around his neck and strangles himself.
It's not a ritual transition anymore. It's an act of pure despair.
Completely devoid of honor.
Think about the cascading irony of Pilking's actions here. The district officer, sitting there in his desecrated fancy dress costume, arrogantly acted to prevent one death. He thought he was civilizing the natives.
Yep.
And his absolute stubborn ignorance ended up causing 2 deaths, humiliating an entire community and causing a horrific inversion of the natural order of a family.
When Pilkings desperately tries to perform CPR on Alayson's lifeless body, Iologia screams at him to back away.
Her final words to him are chilling.
They really are. She delivers this indictment: "You who play with strangers' lives, who even usurp the vestments of our dead, yet believe that the stain of death will not cling to you."
Wow.
She makes it unequivocally clear that the blood of this unnatural, catastrophic feast is entirely on Pilking's hands.
Reading through these sources, the journey you take is just profound. We begin by looking at a colonial administrator trying to stop what he perceives as a barbaric act. But by immersing ourselves in the Yoruba cosmos, you walk away with a visceral understanding of how a complete lack of cultural humility leads to absolute devastation.
It's a hard lesson.
Soyinka's text forces us to realize that true knowledge isn't about collecting degrees or imposing your moral framework on others. True knowledge is about understanding the foundational realities of other people.
Exactly.
If you don't understand the universe someone else inhabits, your attempt to save them might be the exact thing that destroys them.
I think the most haunting directive comes in the very final moments of the script. After both Alayson and Olunde are dead, the young bride steps into the cell and gently closes Alayson's eyes with earth.
Such a quiet, sad moment.
It is. Iologia looks at her and says, "Now forget the dead. Forget even the living. Turn your mind only to the unborn." I want to challenge everyone listening to carry that thought forward. In our modern world, where radically different cultures and worldviews are constantly colliding, often with violent consequences, how are we behaving?
Right.
When we intervene, when we pass judgment, when we forcefully project our own worldview onto others, are we acting merely to protect our own comfort and biases in the present? Or are we actually taking the time to consider the long-term spiritual and literal ecosystem we are leaving for the unborn?
If we are all running in this incredibly complex, high-stakes cosmic relay race, we have a profound responsibility to make sure we aren't knocking the baton out of someone else's hand, simply because we don't understand the path they are running on. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the sources.